Oh, okay, my microphone was off. I'm sorry. We'd like to say welcome to the Gracious Hope Live podcast. This is Saturday, and we are always here at 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time, and 10:30 Liberian Time. That is a GMT time zone. And today we'll be looking at the pros and cons of Liberian Christian missionary practices. And this goes back to our history, national history, about the influx of missionaries in our country, professing the gospel, teaching and preaching the gospel to change lives. And Liberia, if we look at our history, we know that Christianity was established by the former slaves who occupy the land in our country, where they met the indigenous people with their traditional practices. And we know there was conflict here and there, but we coexist, and we have our faith, that is a Christian faith, as the predominant religion in our country. Also, we have the Islamic religion as the second, and then we have some other faith or beliefs in our country, more like traditional beliefs. However, today we'll be focusing on the mission by missionaries from the U.S. and other European countries who engulf the breadth and length of our country to preach the gospel of Christ, and whether they did well, which is the pro, and then we'll look at whether they did not do well, and which is the con. And so we will provide analysis or insights into that. And today we have our special guest, Reverend J. Cephas Davis. He will be giving an insight on that, providing his analysis about the pros and cons, and also Mr. Seboe Marpayan. He's always backstage. He already backstage, and the co-host of this program, Reverend Suah S, Deddeh, who is trying to resolve some technical problems in the background. And our other guest is Reverend J. Orlando Flahn, who hasn't shown up yet. He told me earlier that he has a lot of meeting going on, but he will see if he could, can come in at least for 30 minutes to an hour. Hopefully, I pray that he will come backstage so that he can be part of the discussion. And you can also participate in the discussion as well by expressing what you think about the pros and cons of Liberian Christian missionary practices in our country. And you can do that right in the comment section. We are here to share and tell us what you think. Some of the good things they did and some of the bad things they did. I know you have a whole lot to say. So once you express your opinion, we'll be able to put down the screen and talk about it as well. So we value your opinion. We value your saying. And welcome once again. And so let us now get into the backstage where our guests are. Mr. Seboe Marpayan, we'd like to say welcome. And also Reverend uh, J. Cephas Davis. Welcome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear
Great,
you.
great, great. Okay. And while Reverend Deddeh is getting ready to unravel all of the technical stuff in the background, let us just move ahead here because we have our viewership listening or watching right now, and some of them would like to opine or make comments on this topic that we're talking about, the pros and cons of Liberian Christian missionary practices. And so we'll be looking at our practices, the advantages and the disadvantages. So let us start here with you, Reverend J. Cephas Davis. I know you were our guest last week, and you kind of mentioned that about some of the malpractices by missionaries who went back home, and then some of the callers and some of the writer, not callers, but some of our listening audience or watching audience, they made some remarks, and it was interesting that some of them were able to ask a lot of questions regarding us going or delving into the whole topic of the practices that some of these missionaries carry on in our country. So let's start with you. Let's look at the pros. What are some of the advantages to see our outside missionaries? I mean, people from foreign countries like the U.S. and Europe bringing Christianity to Liberia. As we all know, the country was founded by mostly Christians. Even though the indigenous people were already there, they had a traditional beliefs. Let us start with the pros. What were some of the advantages for that missionary practices in Liberia?
Uh, first, I won't just start from pros, but the first thing, the missionary that came, were they Christian? I think that's a question we have to ask. Were these people actually Christian? You know, and another thing we have to recognize is because often people say missionaries brought Christianity to Africa. No, they reintroduced Christianity, and I believe it's the corrupt form of Christianity that was introduced to the Republic of Liberia. You know,
How? Can you list specific examples
all right,
that would make you to say
I
that?
guess some example I would list. Okay, if we go back to the front of Liberia, and we're talking about the ACS arriving in Liberia, the settlers did not give them. The settlers when they came, the natives did not give them a chance to inherit. And today, the Lakere Baptists that we talk about today, uh, these guys, there are people that came into Liberia that was into, okay, you can say warfare because
Yeah.
the notion of perspective that a missionary brought to Africa was these people here are Haitians. We have to Christianize them, and that's not the concept of Christianity as within the New Testament. That's not the concept of Christianity because because even if we look at our forefathers of black settlers that moved into Liberia, they are not have the good picture of Christianity. They have been given a version of Christianity, where slave be obedient to your masters, where people are dehumanizing at the same time people are claiming to be Christian. How can you be claiming to be Christian and you dehumanizing people that do not look like you, and then that version of Christianity, that's what it brought to Africa as a whole.
Is there any evidence apparent today for what it did way back in the 1800s, in the 1900s? Can we visibly see the wrong version of Christianity that it brought today that we can see in the lives of our people? Or hold that thought. Why are you thinking on?
Yeah.
Let's get to Mr. Seboe Marpayan. I know you've been with the Baptist Church, Catholic Baptist Church. You served as a Sunday school teacher and also in some other capacities, right? From your memory and from your interaction with church leaders and also the lay person in the church and looking at the entire Liberian church environment, what is your thought about some of the advantages and the disadvantages of missionaries who went to our homeland to Christianize the country?
Oh, thank you very much, Pastor Red. It's a pleasure to be back on the show again. I know the last time I was here, it was uh, sometime last year. I think close to Christmas or after Christmas, and now I am back. That's a blessing. First of all, to talk about the pro and cons of missionaries in Liberia, we first of all have to establish the background that led to the coming of the missionaries. So, I often who are missionaries? Missionaries are people that are sent out. All right. Specifically, Christian missionaries are sent out people that go out there to propagate the gospel with the sole purpose of bringing people to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, and by extension, uh, infusing their philosophy of where they came from. Now, so with that said, what were the conditions at the time? What were the conditions under which missionaries came to Liberia? All right. For example, the Catholic came in Liberia in 1841. Presbyterian came 1833. Like Lakere, my good brother, brother Cephas made mention of, Lakere came in Liberia in 1821.
Hmm.
Baptist, the Lutheran came in 1860. Baptist made mission specifically came in 1931. And what were the conditions in the United States at the time? Because both of these folks we're talking about, they all came from, or if I'm not mistaken, most of them came from the US. And from 1920 to up to 1930, 40, this was the Great Depression in the US. All right. So jobs were scarce and there was high cost of living. So most of the folks that the way they could actually come into to sustain themselves was to through the back of the gospel. All right. So if a few of them, I mean, some of them, yes, some went to Bible school here and there, some went to, some nursing, medical training and stuff like that. But the driving force that led them to live in the US to go to Liberia, a lot of that was based on the fact that they did not have a good livelihood here. They did not have a job here. So they had to go to other places to find means of livelihood. So when most of them got to Liberia, they established their version of Christianity. By the way, so here is one myth we must clear. We must understand that during that period, Liberians were not people who did not know God. We knew God. Our people knew God. All right. But we knew God by expression of, the sun, the moon, the river, and all of that. Okay. So if anyone went to Liberia telling us our people did not know God, that's a myth. We must clear that. All right. Because I'm a living story. I mean, history to how my parents and all of that, why we used to go in the bush and stuff like that. Because we did assistant farming before we started farming. All right, we had to go. My father had to face the east. He had to bring all the the rocks, the necklaces that our parents used, and we would put those things down. He would chant. He would, invoke the spirit of our ancestor. And then he would link that with God, the Most High, and say, we want the Most High to give us blessings so that our crops will grow and we'll be able to feed our children. So missionary coming telling us we didn't know God, that's a myth. We must clear that. All right. So so that was it. Now, I think Brother Cephas also talked about the ACS. What was the driving force of the ACS? The ACS, the American Colonization Society, which was established in 18. Let me see. Let me go back to my note here.
I think around 1816.
1816.
Yeah.
1816, that's when it was established. All right. And the basic reason was they wanted to get rid of Black people from the United States so that they would not spoil the blood of their people with Black blood. Yeah. And cardinal among those people were the fellow like people like Randolph, people like what his name, who has that Macklin Street is named after. All of those people, they were white racists, and they told most of the Black, go and Christianize your people. So that was a misconception. That was the wrong basis on which a lot of these folks went to Liberia. All right, now, further in the 1930 or 40, when the white missionaries came, they told our people, well, this is our version of Christianity. Now, here is, and Pastor Alex, you were with the Baptists. You will bear witness, you will bear testament to that. That the May Baptist people, there were two separate conferences. There were the conference that were called GARBC, which was the General Association of Regular Baptist Churches.
Mm-hmm.
That was a conglomeration of both missionaries and indigenous Liberians that were attending that conference. The white people, the Caucasian, they had their own specific conference. And in that conference, no black person, if your color was like mine, you would never attend that conference. All right. Why will a white man goes to the black people conference and the black man cannot go to the white people conference? That was one of the discriminations that these people brought. And and I can give my friend chance to talk, but
yeah.
Right.
Okay. So we're talking. Okay. So go ahead, Rabbi.
Let me just talk about advantage. You know, let me play the blind loyalty for later. Advantage. The Methodist Church was established in Liberia. The Baptist Church, the Roman Catholic Church. These are all people. These are all these are all things that we say, the advantages. But go back to, what our brother just said, the whole idea that our people did not know God, that's a complete myth. Our people knew God. And if we go to African traditional religion, the people say our people are worshiping rocks. Y'all put a banner before the rock and before the ocean. And the whole concept was, if there's this higher power that's responsible for the universe, where's the best place to displace this? Then I asked my friend, I said, you come here in the modern church, that we pastor here today in America, you kneel before the altar. Are you telling me, are you worshiping and bowing before that altar? Is that why you're worshiping? No, you're worshiping a higher power that is greater.
Right.
So the whole concept that our people did not know God, because the whole concept, we are going to Christianize a heathen. That's the whole concept that
came. Okay, but it is good that everybody has their own God. In their alone, they got about 1,000 gods. If you go in the Buddhist land, they got their own God. Everybody has his or her own God. Okay, so we are all religiously inclined in a sense where our soul yearns for something higher. However, the identity of the supreme God, because in the Bible there's a distinction between all the gods. That's why God said to Moses in the Ten Commandments, he said there's no other God, right? He said you should only worship one God, only me, nobody else. So that distinction is there, that he is a sovereign God.
Yeah.
He recognizes that Satan has infused his doctrine, or we have say his influence on a lot of other deities, and we see in our world today. So when you say yes, the people knew God through the river, the people knew God through the trees, the people knew God.
I'm not saying through the trees.
I'm just saying if they knew God in what exists, the creation.
They knew the ultimate reality, which is God Almighty. Because here's the concept: you can't tell me in the West you got people dehumanizing fellow people and they claim they know the supreme God, because that's not fruit of the supreme God. If you would be dehumanizing people into slavery and lynching, then you say you pray to this true God, then it's different God you're praying to.
You're right. But it's one thing to profess and one thing to put into practice. But now, back to Liberia. So are you guys, both of you, Rabbi Davis and Mr. Marpayan, are you saying that when it comes to the cons or the disadvantages, those who carry the gospel message of Jesus Christ, these missionaries, they did wrong by teaching the wrong gospel, stating or making the indigenous people to think that the elite class, was their master, and therefore they should subjugate themselves to that elite class. And so it was the same thing that they experienced in the Americas, where they had a slave masters. And because of that, you are insinuating that they preach a wrong gospel.
Well,
am I correct?
Well, okay.
I can go ahead,
okay, so let me say this, right? I'm going to be very specific. And if you want to cross-check these references, there are people who are living today that you can contact and they will be able to talk to you. There is a man by the name of Reverend Makura. All right. He lives in Tapeta.
Mm-hmm.
He should be 104 years old now.
Wow.
Reverend Makura, along with one Reverend John Demi, they were the first graduates of the May Baptist Missionary, first graduate from the May Baptist School. During their time, at the time in Tapeta, there was the water tower. If you ever been to Tapeta, you will see a water tower at the middle of the field. All right. And whenever they pump that water, it will spread to the missionary homes. The Bible school students, these people were told to go and drink from the wells. And most of these folks said, oh, Reverend, can we just come? Because, you know, when they pump the water, it will overflow and then begin to filter down. It will spill down. And these people, they just want to carry that bucket and set it under the tower so that, the droplets will fill their buckets and they will bring it home. The missionary said, no. All right. So, pretty tell me, what gospel are you teaching the people when you can tell them to go and drink the mud and you drink the clean water? All right. So that's point number one. I gave you another classic example. There was a missionary called Carl Labing. All right, Carl Labing. This man, he went all the way in a Pele village called Duaita. He established Baptist church there. And they would recruit people from the villages to go and attend Bible school. All right. And few of those folks went to Bible school. And there's this one particular person. His name, may his soul rest in peace. His name was Reverend Joe Willie. All right. Reverend Joe Willie decided to attend the Bible school. Carl Labing told him, you will have to come to the village I'm residing, stay here for 2 years. Let me assess you if you truly belong to Christianity before I can recommend you to Bible school. While this man was in that village for the first year, there was another fellow who had earlier graduated. His name was Albert Quina. Albert Quina's son was sick. And they had to call for the airplane. You know, they had this air taxi that they were using, you know, flying from the villages to Phoebe and to Monrovia. And so Reverend Quina requested, because he was the one that carried this missionary to Duaita. So he said, can you call for the airplane so that we can transport my son to Phoebe? So Reverend called for the airplane came. At the same time, Joe Willie had his son at the point of death. So he went and appealed to Carl Labing. Carl, can you please allow my child to go to Phoebe to get treatment? Carl Labing told him point blank, I am still observing you. I don't know whether you are a Christian or not. I cannot allow you to board the plane. You know what? This is a living story. Joe Willie kids are today alive in Monrovia and in Bon counties. I said they will tell you. And Reverend Carl Labing refused Joe Willie. The plane flew with our Quina child. Joe Willie returned with his sick child, and he decided to go to his, his original village to seek traditional medication. While he was going, the child died.
Wow.
Yes. This is a missionary behavior. All right.
And that's why I say for us to even talk about Liberian Christianity, we got to ask ourselves, were the missionary after the Christian?
Exactly. So
that's a question we need to ask ourselves.
Exactly. So let me give you let me give you Let me give you another story. All right. I told you about the missionary conference that was held, and Black people were not part of it. So tell me, how will you come and preach the gospel? I mean, I already espouse that. Let me go to a man called Reverend John Venenacre. Reverend Alex, you also knew Reverend Venenacre. Reverend John Venenacre in Yila Mission, deep in Bond County, he recruited his Bible school student that he was teaching. And most of these people, they had, their only means of living were either to make farm, raise chicken, and stuff like that. And there was their rooster that constantly crowed on in the town, which was proximity to Reverend John Venenacre. John Venenacre told this particular chicken owner, please advise your chicken to stop disturbing me. What do you mean, Reverend? How can we advise chicken? He said, all right, but you don't advise the chicken, then it won't be good. So what did he do? One morning, when the chicken was crowing, he took his rifle and fired the chicken. All right. And there was a mutiny. The Bible school student did not go to class for one solid week. And some of the old folks had to come and, and make peace between those people and Reverend Van before they went back to school. Pretty tell me, what type of behavior is this? All right, so I will pause there. I guess Reverend Davis had other stuff to say, and I can
Reverend Deddeh.
Or Reverend Deddeh, and I can also come by and give you more examples. So those, I got several cons. I also have some pro, but I'm dwelling on the cons.
Yes, Reverend Deddeh.
Yeah, certainly. I'm glad I made it. I've been having some issue. I don't know if it's the internet or what, but in any case, I'm not sure I got the beginning of this discussion. I came and met Reverend Davis expounding. I don't know where it went, but from what I've heard from Brother Seboe, I'm asking myself, there are different people in the church even today. People have different mannerisms. So I will not take 1 or 2, 3 persons' behavior and say the church. Rather, it is that the individuals who are in the church are behaving that way. So I won't look at 1 or 2 members in the family and say the entire family, the Seboe's family is bad, because I see 1 or 2 persons who are the black sheep. And that's the knowledge I'm getting from Brother Seboe. Why it's true that the missionaries will have their own shortcomings and the rest of that, they in one way or the other, they positively contributed to our own society. So we know that not all who say Lord, Lord, Lord will enter the kingdom of heaven. So with that understanding, we know that there will be bad apples in the whole situation. So these missionaries he's talking about, they will have their own misgivings. Some are prejudiced. They had their own inclination to blacks. So I would not take those 1 or 2 examples and categorize the whole missionary journey and say they were bad or they polluted our culture. There were some who, yes, I mean, maybe did not understand our culture and they behave in a certain way, but by and large, the missionaries contributed to the well-being of this nation. They came with schools, they organized schools, they even, I know some people who were sponsored by missionaries. 1, 2, 3, sponsored by missionaries. I interact with missionaries when I in Basingville. Good, loving, God-fearing people. So I will not dispute the fact that there was some bad apples in the missionaries, but to categorize the whole missionary exercise as something that was diametrically opposed to our culture and the rest of that, I would not go that way. Yeah, so let me stop that far because that's what I heard.
Yeah,
Okay, so let us just a moment. Let us take a little break here. We'll be right back. For all our listeners, if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live Podcast. We are here every Saturday, 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time, and 10:30 p.m. Liberian or GMT. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned. All right, and we are back here on the Gracious Hope Live podcast, and this is a platform that promotes and also preserve the Liberian Christian heritage, and we talk about things, contemporary things that affect the Christian life of faith. And today we are talking about the pros and cons, which is the advantages and the disadvantages about all of the missionaries from the United States, from Europe, visited Liberia or stationed in Liberia to Christianize, what that is to teach the Christian doctrine of the population there. But before then, some our guests here are saying they had traditional people, that is the indigenous people on the ground, they knew God, and they were living their lives, and so there was some sort of disruption that went on from the missionaries who came from the Western countries. And I know, Mr. Marpayan, from your personal observation, some of those missionaries, they were able to dismantle marriages. That is, if you're one man, you
Absolutely.
have 3, 4, 5 wives. They'll say no, it is wrong, and it will say no, forget about other women. Even if they had children for you, you've been living harmoniously. They'll make that man to have just one wife.
Right.
How's that?
Right. Exactly. Look, there's nowhere in the Bible that a man who is married to 10 women will go to hell. Nowhere. All right. I haven't seen that in the Bible. Okay. So missionaries coming, putting people under the impression, African society, that the cohesiveness of African society is a unity. It's a unity of the family. And the unity of the family is the man, his wives, and his children. All right. I know in my village, I can speak for myself. Now, I mean, to go back to Reverend Deddeh, we are not trying to cast dark cloud on all of the missionaries. All we say now, when you do sampling, sometimes you do random sampling, and sometimes, CNN, all the poll that come our way, they will not go and say these are all the people that will vote for Mr. X, but they do sampling. So what we are doing here is sampling. Missionaries that misbehave in Liberia are the one we are sampling. All right. So these people came, our people had 2, 3, 4 wives, and they would tell, once they go to the people, accept Jesus Christ. Okay, I believe in Jesus Christ. He's the Son of God. He can't die for my sin, blah, blah, blah. All right. Okay, now you're Christian. So what should you do? The first woman you have, you want to keep that woman. If you have additional 4 or 2, 3 women that that came after your first wife, those people put them away. And a lot of these women with their children, most of the men, they made most of these men to not even care for their children. And I know scores of family like that were disintegrated. All right. And in my village specifically, with that type of behavior, there was a big division between those who were so-called God people and those who were not God people. Those who were not God people, you know how to call them? Bolowa. All right? Bolowa.
So the label them.
They pick up on a marriage issue. Like,
Right.
Yeah. Then I can copy right there.
Yeah. If you pick up on a marriage issue,
Yeah.
If you even look at the context of Liberia when ACF arrived, that whole region, even the negotiation of Cape Moserado was done between a Bassa chief and a VAR chief. So that whole Morufa era, it was covered by traditional, Bassa people in that whole region. Yeah. So they have multiple wives, those chiefs and stuff. So causing this unity in this family. And the reality is the biblical context of marriage fit most the African setting than the European setting. Look at Jacob. Jacob had to work for 7 years to get the woman he wanted, but his uncle said, no, we got to give the older sister up before the younger sister. He took the younger sister, he worked another for 7 years. Then he got this, he got the second sister. So marriage in the Asian Judea cortex is replicate to what was happening in Liberia across Africa. That's just a reality. And when they begin to say, oh, this was wrong, you bound for hell, and they call this new thing family, and that's just a reality. You know, and another negative effect here that is still on Liberia today from the missionary is the whole idea of the blonde hair, blue that is relating all our churches in Liberia, all our churches, not just Liberia, but in Africa, even here in the West. The guy with long blonde hair, blue eyes, and all around in people building, and people pray to it, and it says Jesus. That's another effect that is happening today. That is happening today. That was introduced to our people. And we know very well Jesus not. He wasn't a blonde hair, blue eyes and a blonde hair person. That's just a reality. It's a historical fact.
But if you look at Christianity as a whole, what are some of the positives? What are some of the good things that you believe that the missionaries did there in Liberia when it comes to teaching and preaching about Christ Jesus, knowing his character, and knowing that is the right way to live?
But Reverend, okay, so let's clear this question. All right, let's clear the air. Can a man being married to multiple wives disqualify him from going to heaven?
I believe under the new covenant, okay, under the new covenant, not the old covenant, because if you look in the under the old covenant in the Old Testament, we have Solomon had many wives and concubines. We had David had many wives and concubines. I mean,